This is the Montana Knife Company Task Force 24, and this might be my now do-it-all knife whenever I want to everyday carry something that's kind of like just kind of gets the job done for a number of different scenarios. This is just dropped from Montana Knife Company. They announced this on the 6th of September. It's going to fully drop everywhere on the 12th of September. I've had this for a little bit of time, and I think that this could be the fixed blade knife that not only could be your everyday carry for hunting, fishing, self-defense, utility tasks, but this is something that I could see Montana Knife Company taking and going a little bit further than I don't even know if they're thinking about at this exact moment. And so in the Marines, I used to write contracts in the Marine Corps, and this type of knife is the type of knife that I could actually see being deployed with service members, OCONUS in theater, or I could see this thing going to CIA officers. I can see this thing being purchased by the Department of Homeland Security. Like, this thing has legs. It has a lot of things about it that makes it very, very attractive to possibly being used by our service members. This little divot right here just feels really good in the hand whenever you're holding this thing for ergonomics wise. The G10 scales make it really good if you're going to have sweaty hands, blood on your hands, if you're wearing gloves. The contouring and the machining that they did is really good on this. Really, really common T10 on the hardware. The hardware itself is titanium, so you don't have to worry about that rusting. And I'm pretty sure if you want to freak it out, you can buy some different titanium from them or from wherever and get some different colorations. They have this in a number of different colorways. Let's just talk about the overview of the knife real quick and my initial impressions of it. So, a Magna Cut blade. The blade itself is coming in, I think, at about 4 and let's see. So it's about 4 1/8 of an inch or something like that for cutting, for the actual cutting edge. So yeah, it's about 4. So I have a 4 1/4, but I think it's 4 1/8 when it comes to the cutting profile of the knife itself. The entire knife, the overall length of it is a little bit about 9 1/8 of an inch. So it's a decent size knife. It's a full tang knife. It's really girthy. The reason I say that this could be a good utility knife, a good everyday, is look how thick the actual blade stock is on this. So it's going to be very good for those utility cuts, but also self-defense. It doesn't reflect light, so you're not going to give away your position if you're using this for, in a field type of environment or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of engineering that went into this that makes a lot of sense for me. So the rear of it has like this glass breaker component, but it's not a glass breaker. So I think it has to be ceramic to be a glass breaker, because this might have a little bit of trouble with car windows. But I think like windows of a house, like a sliding glass door, I think it could take care of something like that. If this thing was in its sheath and you needed to use this in a type of scenario or environment where you were doing self-defense purposes, if it's in its sheath, I could also see being able to hit somebody on the head with this pretty easily. Talking about the sheath itself, now we have Montana Knife Company has been giving you different options for the way that you can carry this. So I see it comes with the Aussie clip, but you can get different type of versions as well. You can kind of get it where you can run it through. Like, this is what I use for my Montana Knife Company, the Blackfoot. If you want to run it through a belt or something like that, just lots of different options for it. I like the Aussie clip. I like that this is also made in America. A very sturdy clip, but you can strap this entire thing to your plate carrier, to your bag, to your loadout. It tucks away. So if you want to put this on your plate carrier, maybe underneath your armpit, underneath your arm, and on your weak side, so you can crossbody draw this thing, it's totally doable. You can zip tie the sheath in and get it going. There's a retention screw on here, which you can tighten even more. And if you tighten this down even more, there's like even less of a likelihood that the knife goes absolutely anywhere whatsoever. I like that feature that they built into their sheaths. I would say that when it comes to the engineering of the knife, Montana Knife Company goes above and beyond versus just making a good knife. They also really think about the sheath itself. Now, let's just get with the bottom line. One of the biggest elephants in the room, this thing's $450. $450. That's a in and of itself could be a pricey knife. I'm going to argue why that price might be fair and reasonable. And I'm going to argue this from the point of my nearly 20 years in contracting, writing contracts, and determining prices to be fair and reasonable for same or similar items. Made in America, this complies with the Buy American Act, which is the Buy American and Berry Amendment Act, which is a super boring act that the federal government made up, but they keep certain items to a standard so that if this goes into the hands of our service members, we know that we can actually traceability of all the parts, and we have a certain amount of this item was made in America. So complying with Buy American, this thing could win government contracts, get put into our service members' hands. When you come to those type of specifications, those type of critiques, all the way down to the hardware, it costs more. There's a lot of knives that can't meet Buy American standards because of some things like where the G10 was manufactured, the makeup of the hardware, the makeup of the blade itself. You know, that type of stuff sometimes allows for it not to meet that standard. So that's number one. 100% made in America. It's hand finished in Montana. And, you know, that brings a additional cost for maintaining a facility or the similar thing here in the States. If you see a fully made in America knife at these high specs, you're going to get the price point at 300 above very easily. I know you guys may mention the Bradford Guardians and stuff like that, but when it comes to the overall 100% one and done, could win military contract specs, that knife is not competing with this one. If we're thinking about the warranty that's offered with this, they have a lifetime warranty. They don't ask you any questions about what happened. Was it your fault? Was it someone else's fault? You don't have any issues with that. That's a very good thing as well. Magna Cut blade steel. I know a lot of folks are doing Magna Cut blade steel, but the heat treatment that Montana Knife Company is doing with their Magna Cut, I've seen Jared from these Knives check this out, and they have a high heat treatment very easily. A lot of companies can have Magna Cut, but that doesn't mean it has the best heat treatment. Cerakoted blade, you can get it in multiple colors. The Cerakoting is helps with the toughness of the blade, but it also helps with reducing giving away your position. As I mentioned earlier, you have a lot of blade. I mean, it's almost 0.2 of an inch. It's 0.158 blade thickness on this. It weighs almost 6 ounces. This is a substantial knife, a lot of cutting edge when it comes to the blade length itself. And then you're going to pay to play. You know, when you're comparing this with the likes of TKL knives, with auxiliary manufacturing, you know, Bradford, any of the other manufacturers, you have folks that are small manufacturers that are doing batch loads, which might be able to get you something around the same price because they don't put as much output. And then you have folks that are doing production runs like the Spydercos, the Bradfords, the Benchmades. They can do production runs and they still have a big price on them as well. This is competing with that. If you were to compare this with a similar Benchmade that was a fixie, you're going to be paying around the same price. So if you're looking at this in a vacuum, $450 is a disgusting price. Okay. But if you're looking at this from a pricing of fair and reasonable, that's how I look at stuff, then the price is fair and reasonable. Now, would I buy it? No, I wouldn't. It's just too expensive for me in my life. I wouldn't be able to afford it. That goes to my disclosure. Montana Knife Company sent this out to me to check out. Now that I have it in my hand, I see why it is the price of what it is. I see why it's now taking over my SE number 4, which was my previous do-it-all knife, which has been for starting fires and going camping and going hunting and just using it for doing really crazy stuff when I'm doing stuff out in the woods. And not really caring what happens to the knife. But I didn't spend, I spent less than $150 on this. And I immediately can see the difference in when it comes to having something that has a lot more dedication. For instance, the jipping on the SE is in a place that makes almost no sense. So whenever I do utility cuts with the SE, I want to use the jipping to keep my finger from slipping up. There's not a thumb guard, a finger guard on either one of these knives to keep your finger from fully slipping up the blade. The jipping on the Montana Knife Company is much further back. So if you're doing utility cuts, you're cutting into a surface that's on the ground, it makes a lot more sense. It also makes more sense for defensive purposes. When this is in your hand and you were using this to slash forward, you want the jipping right where your thumb naturally lies. For the SE number 4, you're not using this for defensive purposes. This is more of a straight back. Doesn't have as much utility for all around purposes for just almost everything. When it comes to a drop point, I could just see this being a great everyday carry knife, but also you can use this in a field environment as well. Hardware completely different. They're both rocking G10 scales. It just feels like this G10 was like dialed phone. It was just kind of like they called up the G10 store and had some G10 delivered on this. The CNC machining, the contouring is just not very ergonomic. There's no ergonomics for how your actual hands would grab on, where your indentations go. The hardware is not rust proof. It can be rusted out. I think it is just Cerakoted stainless steel, but it's not. I don't even know what the blade makeup is for this SE number 4. Both made in America, but it is made in America doesn't mean that everything's always the same quality. SE number 4 is a quality knife, but it's a quality knife that costs less than $200. This Montana knife company, Task Force 24 or TF24, is definitely a higher quality of knife in the hand. This expands the Montana Knife Company's tactical line. They first introduced the MKC Wargo, which is a great little knife for everyday carry and for defensive purposes, but not a knife that you're going to necessarily use in like all your hunting scenarios and every single scenario that you may think of. But they're bringing over that footprint of the look, right? Bigger hardware. This is rocking T10. I think these are T8s, maybe T6s. I think T8s. You know, a bigger blade stock, a different, just a overall kind of a little bit different profile. You carry this a little bit different. Like this one can almost be carried very discreetly, maybe almost in your pocket or 100% near your belt loop. Whereas this one here, you're not carrying this in your pocket, but you can probably discreetly carry this maybe on your right hip, underneath your shirt, on a belt loop. But 100% you can strap this to your IFAC, use this when you go rucking or use this for defensive purposes. And then you can also use it for everyday carry. So you want a one and done knife that you buy and you pass it down with these finishes, the fit, the feel. This might be for you. If you don't like if the price doesn't make sense for you, one thing I always say is that never spend more than 2 hours of your pay on a knife if you don't know if you're going to like it. If you don't own a fixed blade knife, you make $30 an hour. The first fixed blade knife you should buy should probably cost you around $60. Okay. Maybe you're looking at getting something from Kaiser, right? This, the Justice number 2. It's not the best knife in the world, but this thing cost me like $57. This lets me know what I do and don't like about a fixed blade. Didn't like the scales. I don't like the hardware. It wasn't very ergonomic, but I love having a fixed blade. I felt like I could just whack it, use it, hit it on all sorts of stuff. It let me know, oh, I could use this to break down a log. I can do this. I could do that. And I did that because I bought it and I used it and I figured out what I did and didn't like about it, right? And then maybe you get yourself a strong arm, right? So you spend 3 hours of your pay, even though I think this knife is overpriced at $97. Has a lot more functionality. Ergonomics are better. The sheath is significantly better than the Kaiser. The lanyard placement is better. It actually has a better heat treatment. Even though the Kaiser's a D2, this is a 420 HC. I think that this made in America heat treatment just fit and feel a lot better. I just kind of wish this knife was like $67. But it kind of just lets me know that going through those experiences and owning those cheaper knives lets me know that if I'm going to carry a fixie, it can't be $60. I learned that. That's why for the longest time for my do it all, it was always the SE number 4. When I go rucking, I strap this thing to my plate carrier, and my plate carrier is literally like right there in the corner. I would strap this to the plate carrier and use this and train with it for possible defensive purposes. I would also maybe bring this in my kit for hunting. If I'm going camping, I'm definitely bringing this thing with me. It had a perfect angle in the back for fire starting. I don't know if this is going to be the same. This is not quite, I don't know if there's a 90-degree angle back here. I guess I can test that out and see if it can use that to start a fire. But I'm impressed with what they're doing with this. It's a pay-to-play knife. You're going to complain about the price because it may not be for you. Everything's not for everybody, okay? I love the way purple Porsche 911s look, but it's not for me because I can't afford it, right? So whereas my big lifted truck that's outside cost me over $40,000 when I bought it, And you may think, well, that's out of this world pricey or whatever the case may be, because it's for me. This knife could be for you. But if you still think it's pricey, just comment down below. No big deal. Just let me know that you think it's still too goddamn high. I'm okay with that. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, hit the Discord. I would love to have you in the Discord. Let me know your thoughts on this down below as well. Is this another banger from Montana Knife Company? I also like this lanyard hole. Kind of wish I had a lanyard hole on my Blackfoot, mainly because I just don't want to lose the knife. And this kind of lets you not only strap the sheath down to your gear, but you can run a lanyard through here and give you one more point of protection not to lose your knife. But that's neither here nor there. First time stopping by. I appreciate you guys once again for checking me out, man. In the meantime, we will speak soon.